there BookTube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my weekly wrap up. This week I've got 4 things to talk to you about. There's 2 graphic novels, 1 novel and 1 audiobook. So let's get straight diving in. The first book I want to talk to you about is Fishnet by Kirsten Innes. This was on mine and Janet's Emoji-a-thon TBR for the newspaper, which is sort of something that covers current events and things that are being talked about. This book is involved talking about sex workers and prostitution, and I just found it a really refreshing and interesting read. It's set in Edinburgh and we're following our main character Fiona. We know that her sister Rona has disappeared and Fiona and her daughter live with her mum and dad. We know that nobody really knows what's happened to Rona and she's been gone nearly 7 years. So we don't know if Rona is alive or what has happened. It's not a spoiler to say, because it does say in the blurb that Fiona discovers that before she disappeared, Rona was working as a sex worker. And so this sort of leads her to really want to find out what's happened and what drew her to this line of work. What I really found refreshing with this is that it gave you a completely different take on prostitution and sex work. It takes our preconceptions and our notions that all sex work is dingy and they're all drug addicts or people that have been sold into sex slavery. They've all got pimps. You know, there's all of these stereotypes we have in our head, and this sort of blows the lid a little bit and gives you another side, another idea of what might lead people to become sex workers, what might cause them to get into this line of work. And I just thought it was really interesting and I really liked that side of it. That was the plot with Rona was threading through and it was the catalyst of driving the plot, but actually all these other things became much more important, and the actual conversation about sex workers and this sort of job industry, it just became much more important than that part of the plot, and I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend this one if you're looking for something a bit harder, more gritty, a bit more interesting and in-depth, and if you're interested in finding out more about this subject. So I gave this one 4 stars and definitely recommend it. Then the next book that I listened to on audio was called That Boy, and I think it's by Gillian Dodd, and I listened to it on audio and I think I saw it on Today in Jen's library, and I'm sure she talked about listening to it and saying how much she really enjoyed it, and so I picked it up on audio because I wanted something a bit more light, a bit more contemporary and a bit sort of romancy, and I really enjoyed it. I listened to it over quite a long period of time, but it's set out in diary entries from what I can gather, and it is our main character sort of talking, and we're following her from quite a young age all the way up to sort of graduate age, and it's just about her life. It's just her diary, it's about her life, the boy next door, their other best friend. She's quite a sort of tomboy in some aspects, and it's about her and these 2 boys that she's best friends with growing up, things that change, their relationship dynamics changing, and things that happen in their lives and how they deal with them. And I just thought it was quite a nice, sweet, easy read, and I gave it 3 stars. And then I just wanted to pick up something graphic novel-y. I wasn't in the mood for reading, I don't know why. So I thought, well, I'll pick up a couple of graphic novels from the library. So the first one I picked up was Mockingbird Volume 1. This is by Kane Niemczk and Mustafa. I didn't know much about this. I'd heard a couple of people mention it before and I thought, oh, I'd give it a go. It's a female superhero, so I'll see you know, how I feel. And this was okay. It was okay. I was expecting more. Our main character Bobby is part of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's been sort of like a super soldier experiment. I can't remember what 2 things they crossed but she's it says here she's got a scientific mind, a lethal mastery of martial arts, and she's one of sort of their best agents, and we're just following her story really. It's not an origin story, it's just a story about sort of her escapades, and it's okay, but I was imagining a little bit more banter, a little bit more I don't know, laugh out loud with this. And you know, as usual with a lot of these things, she is sort of highly sexualized in her outfits, you know, boobs and legs, etc., which I don't mind if it works, but in this case I wasn't sure it completely worked. So anyway, that was that one, and I gave it 3 stars. And then I picked this one up from the library, mainly because it mentioned Japan, and it's called Just So Happens by Fumio Obata. And I picked it up because I like the sound of the story, but also the watercolour artwork really piqued my interest. You can see here. And the story is about our protagonist, Yumiko. She's a young Japanese woman. She's been living in London a long time, and she makes regular trips home to see her family. And then unfortunately her father dies, and so she goes home for the funeral, and we just sort of follow her and her feelings about her ethnicity and her culture, and how she feels being home and looking at the Japanese rituals of life and death. And it was good, but it just lacked something for me. I don't know, it just felt like it didn't have any heart. I know that sounds silly, but I don't know, it didn't give me any feelings. So although I quite liked the art style and I liked the concept, it just didn't follow through on it for me, and I gave this one 3 stars as well. So that's the books that I read this week. We did pick Romy Futch out of our Emoji-a-thon TBR jar, and I started it, but I just wasn't feeling it either, so I've actually DNF'd that one. And the next one that we're going to be moving on to is Showstoppers, so that'll be the one that I'm reading next week. So what have you been reading this week? Have you had a good reading week? Let me know, and as always, let's chat in the comments. And I hope that loads of you are going to find time tomorrow to take part in the Let's Get Graphic Readathon. I'm really excited to be getting through some graphic novels and hosting this with the lovely Caitlin from Kitty G. So hopefully I will see lots of you on the Twitter and Instagram tomorrow, and let's get reading some graphic novels and finding some new favourites. Anyway, that's it from me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.